Hey there, this is me, Mohammad Ramik, the course instructor for computer sciences, and I'm really excited to be here and meet all of you. So whether if you are new to this subject or even if you have some of the experience, so you don't need to worry at all, since we are going to explore new ways so that we can solve problems together and learn in an engaging way. So we will be starting our course with the AS levels computer sciences. And the first topic that we have right here is basically 13.1, that is a user defined data types. I believe that for your A level computer sciences, the chapters that are from 1 till 8 and then 8 till 12, you have computed that into the first year, and so on. Basically, this is your second year. So for the second year, we have P3 and we have P4. So P3 have these chapters that are starting from chapter number 13, and so on. The P4 has the last chapters that are related to the programming, that is going to be as a practical part. So, in this 13.1, we are going to discuss in terms of a user-defined data types. We need to show understanding of why do we need user-defined data types. Then we are going to discuss the categories of that, that is a composite, that is a non-composite. And at the end of this lesson, you can even select your best appropriate data type. So these are some of the lesson objectives that we will be discussing in this class. So let's start with the data types. So as per the last lectures, I am pretty sure that this class is clear that what do you think of data types? So first of all, this is pretty clear that I need data types, so that basically I can categorize different forms of data. There are basically different forms of data, like for example, I have text, I have numbers, I have like for example only two values. So to segregate these types of data, I have some of the data types, and those data types which we have discussed already are we have strings. So this is basically just a recap of what we have discussed earlier. And strings is basically a long text, or you can even consider it if it is a shorter text as well. But strings are basically to be known as a combination of letters and numbers. So it is basically variable. It's totally up to you, right? Like for example, if this is a home address or if it's a long sentence, so we basically use strings. Other than that, we do have the second data type, that is integers. So what are integers? Integers are basically to be known as your whole numbers, right? For example, numbers like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, but they don't have to be in decimal points. Other than that, I have another data type as well, that is named as float, or you can even call it real as well. And these are basically the numbers that are with the decimals, right? Like I can say that they are used to represent numbers with fractions or decimals, right? Like for example, if you have a number that is in decimals, like something like 8.666 or something like 7.889 or something like this, so this is going to be considered as a floating point. Other than that, I have the fourth area, and The fourth area basically consists of the Boolean data type, and the Boolean data type is basically like consisting of two of the forms, right? Like either true, either false. When I have only two set of values, so this is it. I only use this. So so far we have integers that represent the whole numbers. We have strings that represent a sequence of characters. We have float that represent decimal numbers. We have Boolean. So why do you think that why do we need to have these data types? So these data types are usually important so that they can be provided by the programming language to handle some of the basic value. But now you need to listen carefully. Now, what if I have some objects right here that is basically not a single object, that is basically a combination of that, right? Like, for example, if I give you an example of a car has many areas to work on, right? Like, for example, you can set speed. For example, you can set the gear system. You can even set the mileage as well. But one thing that needs to be understandable right here is that whenever it's a car, it also has a name, its brand, and its year. Now, if you have, if you want to work on a data that is not basically a single data, that is basically a combinations of that, right? Like, for example, let me give you an example of any car. For example, if it's a Honda Civic, so that's basically the name of the brand is Honda, the name of the car is Civic, then it's a year, and then I have the other areas of that. So for example, if this is a data, so how you are going to work with this type of data? You cannot mix all of these data types together, that is string, integer, float, real, char, boolean, because all of them are basically totally separate. But when you have a combination of things attached to one area and you want to create it as a data type, so this is the place where your previous data types are not going to be considered, and this is going to be the place where you are going to consider a user defined data type. Now, in terms of this user-defined data types, this user-defined data types means that you have the authority, you have the potential, you have the power. You can declare a data type of your very own. You can create that, right? Like, like when the programmers were working on these four data types, they were limited onto that. That apart from these four areas, they couldn't work. So here comes the solution. They introduce the user defined data types, and as the name says, the user itself define that how the data is going to be. That means that, for example, if your data is not string, integer, float, real, boolean, or merely if it's a combination of many other data types. Like, for example, I gave you an example of a car. In a car, you have a name, you have a brand, you have a name, you have a year, and then you have these things as well. So this is basically going to be considered as an object, and for declaring these types of object, you need to have a data type that is user defined. So this is what we are going to discuss in our class, that we have data types. But this is basically the introduction of that, right? Like data types, like I can say that I have two types of data types. The first is the data type that we have discussed right now. The second one is the user defined data types. But even before continuing with the lecture, there are a number of questions which I want you to reply to that. So the first question says that, which data type would you use to represent the number of students in a class? Then we have the second question, which says, which data type is suitable for recording the price of a meal at a restaurant? We have the third question, we have the fourth question, we have the fifth question as well, and we have the sixth question as well. So I am giving you guys 6 minutes for this question, and I think 6 minutes are more than enough for that. Let me make it 5 minutes. Or no, let's make it. I think 4 minutes are more than enough for that. So I just want you, all of you, to basically grab a piece of paper or something and just write down your correct answers of these six categories so that I can move on. So your time starts now. The first question says that which data type would you use to represent the numbers of students in a class? You need to enter the exact data type. The second question says that which data type is suitable for recording the prices of a meal at each restaurant. The third question says that which data type would you use to indicate whether a light is on and off. Fourth question says that which data type is used to store someone's email address. Fifth data type says that if you were tracking a student's information, how would you use integer, float, boolean, and strings for attributes like age, GPA, enrollment status, and name. The sixth says that if you are managing a library's book of database, how would you use integers for book ID, float for book prices, and strings? So I hope that you are working onto these questions. Okay, so I believe that all of you are done with it. So you can share your answer scripts to me in MS Teams so that I can review all of your answers are correct or not. So moving on to our lecture that I was discussing with you, the data types, and then we have the solution was the user defined data type. So just to give you a recap of that. So I have built-in data types, and what is basically the purpose of these built-in data types? The purpose is to handle single values. These were basically the basic data types, and those basic data types were like integers, string, floating charts, and booleans. And just in case if I was limited by these data types, what I usually do is that I take the help of the user-defined data types. So user-defined data types are right in front of you. So what are user-defined data types? What are UDTs? I can say that they are basically the custom data type that are created by the programmer to model complex entities. So what is an entity? An entity is basically an object, and an object basically has a more number of methods or functions. But when you have a combination of many functions and methods at one place, so you cannot declare that with any of the database. So for this area we basically use user defined data types. What are user defined data types? These are customized data types that are created by the programmer itself to model the complex entities. What is the purpose of that? The purpose is that they basically combine multiple attributes. They basically combine multiple functions, methods, and attributes into a single structure. So this is basically a comparison of the built-in data types and a custom data type. So if it's a built-in data type, I can say that it is basically provided by a programming language for a single values, and the examples are integer, string, float, boolean. The purpose is to store simple and single values representation. Whereas when I'm going to discuss in terms of a user-defined data type, so user-defined data types are basically some custom type created. That means that you are not limited by it. You have the power, you have the ability, you can create your own data type. And for examples of that, you can make a data type that is created, like for example a car, for example a book, right? You can also make a record as well. And the purpose of this is that to handle your complex areas, to handle areas where you have more than one attribute and you have representation with those methods. So the question is, why do you think that these user defined data types are necessary? Why do you think user defined data types are necessary? So I'm going to give you 3 minutes for this, just for you to brainstorm that why do you think that why they are necessary, and then we are going to move on. So your time starts now. Like, you need to think that we do have the basic data types, but why do you think that the programmers need a user defined data types as well? What extra do it offers? Okay, so I think that you guys have responded well to that. You have your reasons for that. And just to make it clear for all of you that why do you think that the user defined data types are important? So we can see it right here as well. So you have already met a variety of built-in data types with integers, with strings, with characters, and more. We have already met with these, but often these are limited data types. That means that they are not enough for a programmer when they want to build their own data type, right? Like, for example, there can be cases where your programmer is restricted or something. So this might create a problems for that. So this is the reason that I have this user defined data type. So what is basically the solution? How can we do that? So we have a user defined data type that is basically a feature in most high level programming languages that allows a user to define a data according to their own requirements. Now it's totally up to you. You have the power, you have the authority. It's totally up to you that how you want to design it. So you are not limited, you are not restricted, you are not confined to any place or anything that if this is the parameters, if the data has to be Boolean or not. It's totally up to you how you want to define it. The concept that says it is if it's a user defined data type. The concept says that when where the user typically refers to someone interacting with an interface. So, however, when writing the code, the programmer becomes the user of the programming language. So user-defined data types refers to the data types that are created by the type of the user. Like, for example, if you all are students, you all are interacting with me, that means that you all are my users and I'm the interface. Similarly, if into a programming, when a user is interacting with an interface, that means that he becomes the user of that programming language. And if the user is creating the data type for their own use, that means that this is a user defined data type. The name itself says it. So I hope that the basic concept is clear to you that what are the data types, what is a user defined data types, why they are necessary, the comparison between both of them. Now, I'm going to discuss with you regarding these attributes, right? And methods as well, and functions as well. You might have this into your mind that what are these attributes, methods, functions. So first of all, now, when I'm discussing an attribute, you need to understand an attribute is that it basically refers to a characteristic. It basically refers to a property or basically refers to an object, entity, or concept of something. Attributes are basically the pieces of data that describes or define an object. For example, if you have a car, now this attribute could be a thing like the attributes of a car could be its color, its year, its mileage. So these are the attributes that are describing it. For example, if it is a book, what are the attributes? What are could be the attributes of the book? It could be a title, it could be an author, it could be the number of pages that describes it. So basically, in a user-defined data types, attributes are the elements that holds the information, that holds the characteristic of that particular type or object. So for example, if you have that object, or for example, if you have that information on characteristics, I mean, if you have an object like this, if this is your object, there could be some number of ways that you can describe that. For example, if it's a car, its color, year, or mileage could be its company could define it. For example, if it's a book, its title, author, and pages. So attributes are basically the elements that holds the information. So you can see that this color, this year, this mileage are the attributes. Title, author, and pages are the attributes as well. So I hope that you are clear with that. So right here, I have a small activity right in front of you, and I wish that all of you complete that right in front of me. So the activity basically says that you need to name an object and its attributes. So some of the objects are those that I have already created, right? Like I have a car. The attributes of that is color. It could be others as well. What is going to be the data type? What is going to be the example of that? So I request all of you to complete this chart, write into your piece of papers or whatever you have so that you can share it with me. And the time for solving this activity is I think 4 minutes are more than enough for this. So you need to name an object and you need to name the attributes of that. So your time starts now. Okay, so I believe that all of you are done with your objects and your attributes, and definitely you can show it to me so that I can check that what are the objects that you have created. Some of the examples I have already given you. I have car, I have a book. So, moving on, I have two scenarios right here. This is basically my scenario one, and this is basically my scenario two. So, in scenario one, what you have to do is this is basically an attribute, a data type, and examples of the car. The car is red in color, and the attributes is color, year, and mileage. It has the data type, the string, number, and it has the examples also along with that. So the first question to all of you is that how would you combine these attributes to create a more organized representation of a car? And what additional details might be important to complete this car? So I want all of you to answer these two questions. And for answering them, definitely you can share to me just by writing them. So again, for this question, I am giving you guys 4 minutes to think on this and then get back to me. So after that, we are going to continue with our lecture. Okay, so I hope that all of you are done with this activity. The other activities that I have right here, I will be sharing that into this an activity folder. So just after this class ends, I request all of you to complete that and submit back to me. So there was two of the questions right here. The first questions are that how would you combine that these attributes create a more organized representation of a car? The second one said that what additional detail might be important for a complete car profile. So both of the answers are right in front of you. So we can definitely create a user defined data type, and by defining that data type, we can name it as a class, and then group these attributes into a single structure. For example, the car class could have a property, for example, years and mileage. Other more important details the car should must have could be either a brand, a model, engine size, transmission, or owner type. So this is it for this activity. The other activities I will be storing that it into this your activity folder. So even before moving on to the next area, I want all of you to complete these questions and then get back to me, share the results with me so that I can carry on with the next area. So thank you so much, everyone. I have shared this into this activity. First complete this and share with me, then I'll move on to the next area. So thank you so much. Take care, everyone.